I know what you're thinking. Is this the booth, drafting the circuits, three-way theater, or the Kevin Jackson show? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kinda lost track myself here on whobazoo.com. So, do you feel lucky, punk?
Oscar Mike Radio. Come in, Oscar Mike Radio.
Sinister 1, this is Oscar Mike. I have you, Lima Charlie, over.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land or sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines.
All right, folks. This is episode 81 as in 81 for Oscar Mike Radio. Today is Thursday, February 22nd. This is the last episode for February. Thank you very much for listening. And I've got a special guest. My Marine brother, Wesley Mullins, is joining us to talk about some good stuff. But before I begin, I'm going to say something that my producer absolutely hates across any podcast or production. Okay? We're Marines. We're going to talk like Marines for this subject for a while. This is not just a once and done episode, right? So we're going to talk like Marines. So if you have a problem with foul language, F-bombs, crude talk, the word fuck a lot, you should turn this off now. If you don't like hot weather, you should turn this off now. If you have 50 Shades of Grey on your bed table, but fine, talk about whatever, Marines talking about it, turn this off now. Now, he's going to not like the fact that I'm telling you this, but I'm just giving you that warning because we're going to enter into a Marine zone, military zone, where two guys, whether they're on a ship in a 5-ton, out doing patrol, in the barracks with the porno mags, we're going to talk real. And if you have a problem with that, turn it off now and go find something else to do. For those of you who want to hear what we're talking about, well, welcome aboard. What we're talking about here is around Valentine's Day, a lot of my military buddies would get down the dumps because of an entity named Jody. And I'm going to let my guest, Mr. Wesley Mullins, who served in the Marine Corps and owns his own business and successfully has built himself up in a new career, kind of lead into what Jody is and how he feels about Jody. Wes, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio. Thank you so much for your time.
Hoorah, and good evening. Good evening. Happy
Absolutely.
Marine evening.
Hoorah.
All right. Talking about Jody, the legendary Jody. And listen, I started off in boot camp like a lot of everyone here. And as my drill instructors were talking to me about, our first letters home, I heard about this person, Jody. And my thought was, who is this? Well, and why does he even matter? What is the big deal about this Jody? So, of course, the scuttlebutt goes through the squad bay and, hearing different stories about different guys who've gotten letters that had used condoms in them. With the letter from a girlfriend, oh, I'm breaking up with you. And of course, that recruit at that point, down in the dumps, he's on suicide watch, take his belt, take his bootlaces, just keep a watch on him, put 2, fire watch on him extra,
And
for the night.
Didn't this always happen in second phase, like the first or second week of second phase?
The strange thing was, sometimes it happened in first. It was crazy. this stuff runs rampant, and no matter what, there was always your drill instructors, your senior drill instructor, trying to give you some sort of advice to say, look, just suck it up. She doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The mission matters. That just push on through it. You'll get over her. And what I've seen for myself is that understanding how the mind and the heart of a man works, that he doesn't put himself in harm's way except to protect his household, to protect his home. And more often than not, especially after the age of 18, that home means whoever he's connected to in a relationship.
Yep.
So to hear that from your superiors, to say she doesn't matter, these people apparently are forgetting that for many of these young people, for many of these young men, because I don't think the female core or the female counterparts really get a whole lot of Jody letters, honestly. I don't know, and I can't say. If anyone has better information, please educate me. I have no problem being wrong. However,
Yeah, you're right. I never ran into a WM, and I know some female Marines hate that, but it's just old habits die hard. It's not disrespectful. I never
right,
heard of a WM getting a letter in boot camp from a boyfriend saying that he broke up with her. That usually happened to them when they got in the fleet and found other guys
right.
to entertain themselves with. And we'll talk about that, but I think you're right. I've never heard of it, ever.
Never in boot camp, ever.
Yeah.
And, I don't know about San Diego. Listen, I was born in Paris Island, South Carolina.
Well, I was San Diego, so we didn't have any WMs, and the only females there were the Navy medics and
Yeah.
yeah.
You got stories too, huh?
Well, they were women, just not what we expected.
Yeah, exactly. So for Paris Island, we did have, what was it, 4th Battalion, and we did have WM's training. And I was lucky enough to be able to watch one of the platoons in action, of all places, at the pool.
Really?
Oh, man. Woo! That was a wake-up moment for everybody there.
Now, why? Why was that?
Well, apparently the schedules kind of mashed in. I wasn't one of the fast learners in the pool. So when I did my CWS training, I had to stay for an additional 2 weeks because I wasn't able to go through like everyone else. But in the process of getting that remedial training, all of a sudden we had the drill instructors. We were on a break real quick on the side of the pool because we're tired. Then all of a sudden the drill instructor's like, face the wall, face the wall. And so we turn around, face the wall. The next thing we hear is, aye, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Aye, ma'am. And we're like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? And of course, one by one, popped our little heads around, and sure as shit, we see a whole platoon of females doing their CWS training in their skivvies. Boy, we had stories all week.
Oh my God.
I mean, that was an act of God.
Whew. But yeah, I never heard of a female getting a Jody letter from home, ever.
Never. Even when I got to the fleet and I was able to interact with WMs, I never, ever heard of anything of getting a letter in boot camp. If anything, it was somebody who was E5 or better, and she was so high up on the food chain that she was just working all the time. And then, of course, her spouse decides, hey, I've had enough and I'm going somewhere else. But then again, it wasn't even Jody at that point. It was just, I don't ever see you. So I'm just going back home, or we're getting a divorce.
That's reality. That is something that I've seen where, okay, the husband's like, look, I'm glad you're a Marine, nothing wrong with you, but you're right. No weekends, no nights. There's always something going on. If you're an E5 or above, you got, the E4s below to babysit, and it's like, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
And that did happen, and that's unfortunate. That's just part of the game. But as far as Jody affecting females,
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it ever happened, honestly. I could be wrong again. And if there are any who would correct me on this, listen, it's not about me getting in your business. It's just enlightening me to let me know that, you know, this is not something that's a simply one-sided conversation at this. And everyone needs to be represented no matter what. So I'm open to being wrong.
likewise. But one of the things for us in San Diego that we were bluntly told, and mainly in third phase and MCT, was you are to avoid having any kind of relationship with the WM at all cost.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
the reason was I was in from 95 to 98, and it was right after Tailhook, and you had staff NCOs worried about their careers, and they told us that no WM is worth your career. No WM is worth your stripe, so avoid them.
Absolutely.
And hey, why don't you go out with me? And we'd be like, nope, nope. But it's I'm sure, and we can't sit there and say that WMs and wives and spouses aren't affected by infidelity or marital problems in the military, because they are, of course. But
Yes.
I think for this episode, we're trying to establish who Jody is. So when we talk about Jody, we're talking about
Right.
the guy or guys, a Marine or Army or Navy, Air Force soldier. His girlfriend, wife, or significant other is with while he is either A, in boot camp, B, deployed, or C, on a field op.
Right.
And then you had another perspective on Jody that I thought was interesting, and I was wondering if you could articulate that for us.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Now, we're all familiar and we've all heard the legendary Jody as the individual, the guy who would sweep in and get your girl while you're away. However, there is another Jody that those who have gone a little deeper on this path have unfortunately had the displeasure of understanding and knowing, and that is Jody the system, the Jody that fuels and operates by the system. And when I say the system, I'm talking about uh, those military members who have children with the women who uh, they have decided to go on this journey with. And for whatever reason, she's unhappy, or she decides I'm going to do something else, or I'm going somewhere else. And she decides at that point, I'm going to take the kids and I'm going to do what I want to do with the rest of my life. Now, what I'm really talking about here is dealing with family court and child support. And that is the Jody that not many people in the military talk about. And the truth of the matter is that let me bring this back to a traditionalist view.
Sure.
And going back to the basics of being a parent. Now, we can all agree that it takes two to make a child. And God blesses both parents with that child. And as a gift of God,
both parents have a right to that child. Likewise, and conversely, the child has a right to both parents as a priority. So when we're talking about Jody the system, child support and family court empower the custodial parent, what they consider the custodial parent. And it takes parental rights away from the non-custodial parent. And of course, making sure that we're matching up who we're really talking about, the military member who is deployed, who is away on boot camp, MCT, a field op. Because that parent is away and doing their duty in trying to provide for the household, the custodial parent takes it upon themselves, and family court doesn't care about military members. There's no special treatment. And as we all know and we all experience, for almost everything else in life, there's always preferential treatment concerning military members, not in the family court.
That is correct.
Child support. And this is a humongous problem, because the worst thing that you need in the foxhole next to you is somebody who's thinking about his child he can't get to because he's fighting with the mother, instead of the rounds coming down range at both of you.
Yeah, and for that soldier, that seaman, that Marine, and that airman, he came home from deployment, and his child is like, it's one of two things. Mommy, daddy's or uncle so-and-so is with us now. Mommy told me to call this man daddy, which sends the average guy into Nova, right? And then you have the other aspect where the child is older, 13, 14, 15 years old. Mom has brought this guy around. It's not the child's father.
Right.
It causes stress to the child, and that child does not want to leave, but has no say in where they get to go, because they can't, because mom's already pulled the trigger and, pushed all in on this. And you're right.
Exactly.
The courts do not favor military guys. And we're going to go into one story further down the road this year, just to tip your hands a little bit, where the submariner was getting ready to get put in jail for not being able to meet his custodial agreements, and the judge in Seattle is like, "Oh well, too bad."
That's a shame.
And you've seen it up close and personal. I've seen it up close and personal, and so why we're here is to kind of, one, talk about it from the aspect for the kid going in the military, and two, for the guy going through this right now. What I think, Wes, you wanted to do, and what I wanted to do, was try to have some make light of it in a way, but also say, hey, there's people out there that have been through this, they know what they're doing, and there's hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will give you a peek into what we can do about this, to let you know and let all of our listeners here know that, number one, you have a right to your child the same way that the mother does. If it's a female military member, the same way that the father does.
Oh yeah, and that,
You have a right.
And just real quick, this, if you are a female military member and your husband has, you were stationed in Germany or Turkey, and he picked up and left you and moved back to the States, and you don't have access to your kids, absolutely, we understand the same boat that you're in. It's not funny for either, mother or father. We absolutely are there with you on this. I just want to be clear about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It does go both ways. And no matter what, the court does not care. But here's a couple of secrets, and I'm going to give you a real big peek into this. And I had to research this on my own. I was in the process and myself and going through a big fight with one of my kids' mothers, and somebody kind of shared something with me, and I didn't believe it at first. But then when I researched it, I found it to be true that family court is not a real court.
Really?
No, it's not. It's not a judiciary court. It's an administrative court.
Now, why is that important?
That is extremely important because, as you know, if there's something that you've done where it's a criminal matter or something kind of serious, whenever you get an order from any court that's a judiciary court, you absolutely go to jail for not doing what you are ordered to do. With an administrative court, it's more like a threat with no teeth. Anyone, and I can guarantee you, there is no one else on the planet who can prove this wrong. Anyone who has disobeyed or decided not to follow the guidelines of a family court, when they do get you and when they do decide to put you in jail, it's never for the reason that you disobeyed. It's always for contempt.
I think you're right. Just from my own personal experience, I think you're absolutely right. And there's been many times where talking to guys, because here's the thing, people. You hear about the guy who has PTSD, and he's a non-combat veteran. And you're like, well, come on. But if you're 5,000 miles away from your child, and this stuff is going down, and you're getting letters from lawyers, and you're asking parents to, advocate on your behalf, and your whole life just crumbled because you're out there doing this to build a new life, it's a big deal. But you finally get a court order that says person X has to do A, B, and C, and they do A and B and say C, nah, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And you call your lawyer up and say, well, hey, they're not following the rules. Can we have them thrown in jail? Well, not really, yeah. And people are like, that can't happen. But it does happen, doesn't it, Wes?
It certainly does, every single day. And the unfortunate thing about it is that because people don't know what this really is, they fall into the trap far too easily. There are so many different sources that are trying to advocate for child support. Well, it's for the benefit of the kids. Well, if you don't pay it, then your kids are going to starve. Well, if you don't play nice with child support, you won't get custody of your kids. And all of these, and I mean every one of those statements are lies. As we get into this, I promise all of you, as we get into this, I will explain how each one of them is a lie and how you can fight so that you won't have to deal with this third party interfering with your family situation.
And that's really the thing is we want to go at this from the level, okay, Jody just had his way, he fucked your girlfriend, and you're absolutely just devastated. We want to kind of tell you from our perspective what you should and should not do. It's not worth your military career to get all torn up over a woman. It's just not. Or a man, okay, anybody, whatever your feeling is. There's a way to deal with that, internalize it, learn from it, process it, and actually come out better than what you were before. It's not easy, but it takes time. But what you can't do is throw away your future because somebody else decided to screw you over.
Absolutely.
I think to your West point is you say, okay, the divorce happened, for whatever reason. Maybe the guy was an asshole and cheated on his wife, and she took the
It's
kids.
possible.
Yeah, it's
And that
possible.
happens. Yeah, that happens too. It happens.
It absolutely
But,
does. Our brothers are not exactly choir boys, some of them.
right.
Okay,
But
so
that does not mean that you should not have access to your kids.
absolutely.
God gave those children to both of you. Both of you have the right to raise him or her.
Yep. And so I think where you're coming from is you really want to lay it out for that person who's been married for 10 years, had some time in the military, or got out, and they're still in that military mindset, what to do to be there for their kid. Because, we'll bring it up. There is tons of research out there to show that a two-parent system works for these reasons. We're not sitting there saying that single parents are less worthy or less capable or less available to their kids. We're not going to say that at all, right? But
No,
there are things both sides bring to the table that are needed. And when you're divorced, you have to be willing to let both sides do this. And sometimes such shit happens, and kids go with one side or the other. That's a different story. Maybe we'll get into that later. But for the average military type divorce situation, while you're in or right after you get out, there's some things that Wes has for you to look at and do.
absolutely. Now, the first thing that I will say, and this is to let you know how serious this is. When you go into this different type of war, first of all, as Travis has already said, you can't afford to lose your cool. No matter what Jody has to come up in your face with, no matter what your child's parent, the custodial parent, tries to put in your face to brag about what they're doing, no matter what that parent decided to keep you from, never lose your cool. Because as soon as you do, you have lost everything, not just the military career, not just your freedom. You have lost access to your child forever. I guarantee you. So it is your best interest to keep all that shit under wraps. Stow it.
Or find a guy, a family member, or another Marine, military person, soldier, Army Ranger, whoever it is, who's been through your shit before to talk to, instead of taking matters into your own hands. Wes is right.
Absolutely.
It's a lose-lose situation for you.
Absolutely. And guess who's going to lose the most? Not you. It's going to be your kids. So if you want to put your children through the worst experience that they could ever have in their childhood, you go ahead and lose your cool. But I'm telling you here, keep it under wraps. Stay calm. Relax. You will get through this. You cannot win a war in a single day.
And that's where I think, Wes, we might just end in this one. Again, this is kind of like the intro to what we're trying to do. This is not just something we sat around saying, hey, let's get on the podcast and have some fun. We're going to structure this over the course of probably a year of things that you can take action with, right? And I think
Absolutely.
we'll probably do one half of the podcast on the recruit military side and one half of the podcast on the other side, and maybe switch up a little bit. The idea is to use real world examples from our experience and from other people's experience to kind of give you some guidance. You're not alone. Wes, do you agree? You're not alone if you know where to look.
Absolutely. You wouldn't believe how many thousands of fathers over hundreds of countries who are going through this very thing. It is a systemic problem.
But they will support you if you know where to find them, and they're not judgmental. We just want to see our kids and be there for our kids. And you're right, Wes. You're going to have the other party treat this like a battle, and they're going to do things to hurt you, and it's going to suck.
It is. But the best thing you can do, just like when you're treading water, is keep your head up. That's the only way you can breathe. Keep your head up over the water.
So we're gonna probably end this now. I think we got a good like jumping off point. Only thing I can say in conclusion is, look, this is not like an anti-woman, anti-female Marine or female service member type deal. I just want to be clear about that. I have good relations with almost all the WMs I served with, and we want to be clear about that because we understand that female service members who are married and have kids have gone through this exact same thing. Jody can be male, female, or whatever, but it doesn't really matter once you can't see your kids. I mean, what do you think about that, Wes?
Absolutely. It's the absolute truth. And listen, I'm a grunt. I'm 0352, and I never really got a chance to interact with quite a few females in my time that I served, 95 to 99. And no matter what, though, I've always been able to come away when I did interact with WMs as they understood I was respectful, that I wasn't trying to push myself on anybody. I wasn't trying to, be braggadocious or anything like that. Look, I'm just a Marine, and I'm just here to do my duty. And that was all.
Well, our MCT captain, Captain Owen, said this, and I tried to follow it. He's like, if you treat your WMs like sisters, you can't go wrong. You'll never get in trouble.
That's a perfect analogy, because that's exactly what I did. I treated every WM as my sister.
So what we're trying to say here as we close is, look, this is not that we're anti-woman or anti-female service member. It's just you're going to go through some stuff in life as a male or female that can fuck you up. And in this realm, in this section of the battlefield that Wes is talking about, there's just more males here than there are females. That's all we're saying.
That's it. And one last thing that I'd like to put out there about this, the solutions that I will be sharing, these are solutions that you will be able to hold your own, represent for yourself and your children, wage this war without the addition or necessity of an attorney or lawyer. And there's a reason for that. There's a specific reason for that we'll get into later. But you'll be able to do this on your own. You don't need representation. And you don't need to spend thousands of dollars doing this.
You have talked to me before about that aspect of it, but from my experience, I'm going to tell people that if you feel like you need to have legal advice, go out and get it. And all I'm going to say about legal advice is simply this: you get what you pay for. That's all I'm going to say, because to Wes's point, I think what you're trying to say, Wes, is if you're not careful, you can spend a shit ton of money on a lawyer and not really get anything done.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, it's happened to me. It has happened to me. I spent some crazy money on what I could have swore up and down was going to be the one guy who's going to be able to turn this whole thing around. And he sits down, lays down, and puts his paws up like a puppy at play, saying, rub my belly, and gives everything to my son's mother. It really made me feel like, well, whose side are you on?
Right.
This is damn near fratricide. What the fuck?
No. I mean, for me, I have a great relationship with my attorney. She has been scorched earth when I've needed her to be, and not really in the way that you would think. She kind of smacked me around a little bit and said, hey, you've got this, and this going for you. You've got your kids, get your head in the game. So we have a lot to talk about over the course of the next year. I mean, we could talk about this for 4 hours right now and not even scratch the surface. But this is just a way to really kind of broaden the podcast out to more people and give some real world, no bullshit tools to use.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Brother Wes, we'll be doing this again. All the information will be on the Oscar Mike Radio blog post. You can email me, travis@oscarmikeradio.com. I think next time we'll get into a little bit more of Wes's background in the Marine Corps and what he's doing now, because what he's doing with his civilian life is pretty cool. So that's it. OMR is out. Thank you very much.